FNCS Groups is here, and we kicked off with a banger. Peterbot, the favorite to qualify, having to play out every single game, not winning a single one of them. And unfortunately for him, it looks like a team nearby might be trying to take some of his loot coming into grand finals. Could this spell disaster for Peterbot? I also want to talk about EU's group as well. We had big names like Vanya and Tayson that needed to make it through, but it was a very, very tough group. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Before we get started, you can already tell, yes, unfortunately, I am still sick. Now, I'm sorry, my voice sounds a little bit weird, but I'm getting better. Don't worry, I'll be better before the rest of FNCS. I'm not going to not make a video on groups. So, kicking off with NA, obviously the big name coming into this one was Peterbot. Now, there was no concern that Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold were going to qualify, but there was a bit of drama with Pete throughout the day. Game 1 kicked off nice and spicy. Watching the broadcast, no one's keeping an eye on Peterbot. He's probably grabbing the train, doing whatever. He's uncontested at Crime City. But we see Peterbot go down. Peterbot and Cold both go down, leaving Ritual to have to go back to Crime City, farm up the gold, and buy them back into the game. But how did they go down? They went down in the new Dilbit server room at the end of Canyon Crossing to Visual's team. Visual's team made an aggressive push, tried to claim that bit of loot for themselves, and from this point on, you knew it was going to be on between Pete and Visuals. Now, going into game 2, I was super excited to see what Visual was going to do. Was he going to try and hold this piece of loot? Because it's pretty integral to Peterbot's success. If you guys watch my react video or any of the content from Peterbot since the most recent update where they added this extra room of loot, this has been one of Peterbot's keys to success. Either him or Cold, two of them drop here, get the loot, then they go take the train and the houses nearby, and they basically have a full PY's loot in like the first minute of the game. It's really, really important to Peterbot, and seeing Visuals try to take it had me pretty excited. But from game 2 onwards, Visuals team left it. They went back to Canyon Crossing. They made no sign that they were going to push and try to take this loot from Peterbot. Now, I thought Peterbot would then potentially try to start griefing Visuals to make sure they don't make grand finals. Now that Visuals has made it clear that he's at least thinking of going for some of that loot, Peterbot, as you guys know, very aggressive, likes to control the space around him, thought he might do something about this. Now, unfortunately for Peterbot, he couldn't find Visuals because Visuals was trying to avoid him so this wouldn't happen, because Pete started very aggressively pushing into Canyon Crossing, but Visuals ended up making it to grand finals. So for those of you guys who are Peterbot haters who want to maybe see Peterbot not do as well as he has been, this is your chance. If Visuals starts trying to take this loot, things could go south for Peterbot very quickly. Even if Visuals only does it a couple games, it could be enough to throw them off. It came down to Ritual solo clutching, rebooting Peterbot. They still went on to have a pretty decent game. They got a 10 Elam 7th in that first game, but in a 12-game format, teams willing to try to take some loot for Peterbot and fight Peterbot is what could throw the spanner in the works of what a lot of people are saying is going to be the champion this season. I've explained the format a whole bunch. You guys know it by now, but again, 5 games. If you win one of the 5 games, you go straight through the grands. If you get top 5 without winning a game, you go through the grands. Now, a lot of people were expecting Peterbot to come out, put in a 30-minute shift, play 1 game and qualify, but that didn't end up happening. We had Peterbot play out all 5 games of Group 1, not winning any of them. Now, you probably think, oh my gosh, it's because Visual's taking his loot. Peterbot's finally fallen off. It's happening. Not really. They got a 10 Elam 7th, a 1 Elam 21st. In game number 2, they were taking a very aggressive mid-game fight against Shadow's team. They took a little bit too long. Shadow's team was doing a great job of holding Peterbot's team off. Then we had a trio fully sneak up, crouch walk for about 2 minutes into Peterbot's box and then managed to take him out. That led to them getting 21st, but then they dropped a 20 Elam 2nd, a 17 Elam 8th, and a 26 Elam 2nd. So for those of you guys who maybe heard that Peterbot only just qualified, he didn't even get a win, they dominate. To put those scores into perspective, Kinch Analytics made a post that they just broke all previous records for groups. So they got the most consistency points, 393 points. They got the most Elams in a group stage, 74, previously 62, and the most Elams in a single group game at 26, previously 23. So again, insanely dominant performance from Peterbot's team, but they didn't get a win. So who did? We had Noisy, Creon, and Tony, the Hispanic boys out of Pump Power, had them picked to win it. We had Joji, Donnie, and Craze, which again, if you've been following Craze's storyline at all, it is insane. Craze has gone from being an Oliver OG subscriber, that's all we knew him as a few seasons ago, to then being picked up by OG, making his first grands, then playing with Bucky and Okas, leaving Bucky and Okas, creating a bit of drama, but to go on and play with Booga and Threads. Then he gets snaked by Booga and Threads because he has to go to his prom and do his SATs. After they promised him they wouldn't drop him, he then makes his name Prom FV to make a joke of this, picks up Joji and Donnie, IGL's his first ever time, and makes grand finals. Like, that is a ridiculous come up, and he just won solo Cash Cup finals. So from like a year ago being an Oliver OG subscriber to now in grand finals as an IGL winning solo Cash Cups, an insane performance from Craze, one that I know a lot of people are excited to see. They did it out of the bridge. Not a crazy drop, but a 12 elim win. They played phenomenal. We had Taki, Ishu, and Vert doing it from the Vert split. It's the split on the map just the north of Pump Power. Not a super strong split. They managed to get a 7 elim second game 1 and a 10 elim win game 2. Really dominant from them. Visuals team, like I talked about, already got their win. They were at Foxy Floodgate. They were supposed to be contested. They ended up being uncontested. Then we had Aviv, Skittles, and Chimp come out and win game 1 with an 8 elim win. Next up, who is our top 5 most consistent teams? I already talked about Ritual, Cold, and Peterbot coming in first. Then we had Bryce, G Money, and OCID, who played phenomenally well. Kicked off with their worst game, a 1 elim 18th. Then they got a 5th, 6th, 5th, and 3rd. So really good consistency from this trio out of Hopeful Heights. Then we had Golden, Void, and Ozone, who were doing it out of Kappa Kappa Factory. They got a 15th, an 8th, a 3rd, 2nd, and a 9th. Then we had Josh, Causes, and Magma. Now, I don't know too much about this team other than the fact they got 1v3'd by Donnie last FNCS. I'm glad to see them bounce back from that. That was a pretty rough one. If you guys remember, Donnie pulled off an insane clutch, which qualified them to grand finals and denied Josh's team, but they bounced back. They're doing well this season. Really happy to see them. And then the last spot on 195 was taken by Shadow, Curve, and Tyler. Now, this team was one of the best teams in the groups. They ended up getting contested at Flooded Frogs, which I couldn't really understand. The team that was contesting them ended up stopping contesting Asian Jeff at Lone Wolf to contest them at Flooded Frogs. They still pulled it off. They still qualified because they started off with a great performance, but they did just beat out Scare, Edgy, and Chance, who got 191 points and didn't qualify. Super unfortunate to see for Edgy. His first time IGLing, almost made it to grand finals, a 9th, 10th, 13th, 4th, and 6th. So not a bad match history by any means, but only top 10 qualify, with Pete's team taking 393 points and still not winning a game. I really did think qualification would be lower than 191, but unfortunately for Edgy, they miss out. We had some other big teams in this group not make it out. We had Death's team, we had Oliver OG, we had Cease, we had Asian Jeff out of Lone Wolf. If you watch Clicks' stream, he had everyone coaching him, Clicks, Veno, BloodX, everyone was in the call, but unfortunately they couldn't pull it off. Skater saying that he wasn't even planning on IGLing this tournament until the day of the tournament, so he was super upset with their performance. Again, it is worth mentioning, FNCS isn't over for any of these teams. They have to wait and play the last chance qualifier, and with this many good players not making it, I'm guessing we're going to see some team swaps. Now, we haven't heard any just yet. I'm sure most players are waiting for Group 2 and 3 to finish, which is in like 5 or 6 days. Once those finish, then they'll know who the best players are to try to make their new trios and try to take one of the 3 spots in last chance. Moving on over to EU, we had a pretty good group on EU, but again, it's nothing compared to Group 2. Group 2 is the Avengers group, just phenomenal, but there are some big teams in this group. We had Tayson's team, we had Vanya's team, we had iDrop, we had some good teams that needed to get across the line. Game 1 was won by Dexy, Huddy, and Artist. They came out with a 13 elim win. We had some really high elim wins on EU today. Game 2, we had Stormy Right with a 15 elim win. If you're new to Fortnite, you might not know why that's such a big deal. Stormy Right is a Chapter 1 Season X grand finalist, so an absolute OG. Stormy Right was the player who during, I think, Chapter 3, when the war broke out on Ukraine, was actually having his city bombed during grand finals. He could literally hear the war going on from his setup while trying to play in Chapter 3. So Stormy Right, an absolute inspirational player, still dominating here in Chapter 6. Really excited to see him pick up Arco and Headstep. I actually don't know almost anything about his 2 teammates, so really underrated performance from them. Then we had Tayson, Chris, and Chicho. Again, Tayson, Chicho, and Trulex struggling a little bit last season, not really performing up to a lot of people's standards. I had high hopes for them. It looks like when they had Tayson, Chicho, and Trulex, just didn't really have that firepower they needed. Great experience, really methodical players, good surge basing, all that, but just didn't really have the big, big impact plays they needed. Looks like Chris has done that for them. They got a 3rd and an 8th before getting a 13 elim win. So definitely enough firepower on that trio now. Then we had Firebro's team, Firebro, Kentic, and Chuck. Again, 2 players I haven't heard too much about, so some really underrated wins on EU. It was a 5 elim win, so the least amount of elims wins on the day, but they managed to pull it off. A win's a win. They're in grand finals. Then we had Noya, Misha, and Yasin get a 14 kill win in the last game. They got a 6th place during the day, but all their other games were terrible, so they needed to clutch that last game win to make it to grands, and that's what they did. Now I know you're thinking, Aussie, how did Vanya, Pixie, and Marius not get a win when a bunch of random players I've never heard of did? Well, they got very close. They got a 9th, 3rd, 5th, 2nd, and 4th. So easily the most consistent team on the day. Didn't get the win, but they came very close multiple times. They qualified through all the same. They got plenty of practice. They're still one of my favorites going into EU Grands.
You get it done nice
Oh, Kiddo, the double mythic loadout again, bro. What the Oh no, it's Vanya. Ooh, that was almost a whiff though. Wait, Marius. Wait, Marius takes down Cringe. The 1v3 for Marius. 1v3 for Marius. Wait. Marius is putting in pain, bro. Oh, Marius is so fucking good. Oh, he's fucking crazy. Oh my god, it's him. Holy fucking shit. Oh my fucking god. Bro, he's fucking him. Holy shit. Straight 1v3 against Cringe. Not even a team. Oh, dude, I swear in that scenario, I'm never calling a 1v3. Like, only because it's Marius did I even mention that maybe he 1v3s this. That is absurd. Bro, what a fucking goat. Oh my god. Play this. Absolute textbook. Wait, 1v3'd without taking a single damage. Oh my god. Absurd. Then we had the Polish boys, Dynas, Giras, and Franik. They came in 7th overall, the second most consistent, 12th, 5th, 2nd, 6th, and 6th. Just full Polish placements across the board. Very, very consistent. Then we had iDrop, Sky, and Scroll. Now, this team has been pretty hit and miss throughout the season. They've been trying to lock down the shafts for the whole season. They got a 4th, 4th, and a 2nd, as well as a 12th and a 16th. So, not the craziest performance, but still very, very good considering they got quite a lot of elims with this. Their game 1 clutch, the 11 elim 4th, was on the back of Sky and Scroll. They absolutely popped off and did extremely well after iDrop went down early. Then we had our first French team into grand finals, Artskill, Podesai, and Xweezy. So the Gentlemate's gonna be very, very happy about that. They've now got Marius and Podesai and Xweezy into the grand finals. Then we had Cringe, Volko, and Kiduo taking the last spot on 211 points. So we had Ricky, Belusi, and Gabix, the Italians, missing out on 204, getting over 200 points and still not qualifying. A lot of you guys keep asking, oh, if the points are high, does that mean the lobby was better? Not really. Normally when the points are higher in a qualifier, it means the lobby was a little bit worse, or at least there wasn't any teams that were just absolutely dominating. That can mean because the whole caliber is a little bit lower, or there's no front runners and absolute titans taking the points but then winning and qualifying through. If a lot of the big teams that do really well then go on to get a win, all the points they get taken out and qualification is lower. So it was a solid lobby, but Group 2 is the main focus for EU. It is by far the strongest group, as we've talked about, but we still had a few big teams to make it out of grands here, and I feel like we didn't have too many upsets. There was Floki's team missed out as well. Shaco's, who had uncontested Seaport, I thought was going to do a lot better than that, but for the most part, we got all the big teams through to grand finals in Group 1 on EU.